This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are on October the 22nd, 2022, and I have a musician on the show with me today, connected with to me by the lovely Lisa Langlois. Folks, I give you the very innovative Stephen Day. How do you do, Stephen?
Good to see you and good to be here. And it's great to hear everybody out there that's hearing us.
Yeah, I got connected with you while I made my first of two trips this year to Toronto. I'm going back again this Thursday, and I will see Lisa, of course, again. How did you and Lisa get connected?
Well, we met through a mutual friend named Mike Gormley, who I believe you've had on the show.
Oh,
Mike's
yeah.
a music manager in Los Angeles, and
Mm-hmm.
he and I have worked together. And so he and Lisa were together, and they had a party, and I think that's when he introduced me to Lisa. I can't remember the exact first time that we met, but it might have been actually a show. I did a show at the Kodak Theater. I was part of a bigger show.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wasn't headlining the Kodak Theater, but I was part of a bigger show at the Kodak Theater, and I believe that Mike met or brought Lisa to that show, and that's kind of how it all rolled.
Well, how did you get connected with Mike? Because interestingly enough, when I reached out to Lisa for the first time in 2015, she had Mike Gormley connect us. Now Lisa and I are on a very good friendship basis now, and I've assisted her at a couple of the horror film events. But Mike still sends clients my way, so we're still connected. And Mike's been on here 3 times. And so, how did you get affiliated with Mike?
Mike attended a meditation session that I was playing music. This instrument here is called the Shrod.
I was
All
going to
the
ask you
pegs.
about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a conversation piece with all these pegs and things. And I can't deny I was hoping you might ask about it. Anyway, I was playing meditation music for meditation, which I do often, and on this road. And Mike was at the session with a friend of his who worked Music Connection magazine, and now has a blog. And they were together and they meditated to the music, and we talked afterwards, and obviously kept in touch and built a relationship, friendship that is still going strong today.
Okay. Yeah, he still sends a lot of clientele my way. I'm still very much in touch with TJ Doyle. Are you familiar with him?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. How about Kimberly Haynes?
Yep, Kimberly. Yep.
Yeah, Kimberly and Vigo Grigori. I've had them on. Kimberly is lovely.
Yeah.
Let me see. He sent Johnny Hernandez from Oingo Boingo my way.
Mhm.
Mike sent a lot of people my way. It's so many to Willa Weber comes to mind. So many, and so yeah, I'm actually surprised that it was Lisa that connected me with you. So there you go.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Well, Lisa also has a lot of people that are mutual connections. Of course, she's more in the film world,
hmm
but I've kind of over the years I've gone from just music as a musician, and I've went from musician, person who plays music and sings and performs, to someone who put music into film and TV, and then from there I started working with directors. Actually, one that Mike connected me with, uh, and then developed living for years and years in Los Angeles. It's been 20 years now. Developed an interest in story and in film, and how films work and how story works, and
hmm
that is now, rolling into my shows, my presentations. when I introduce a song, I spend more time talking about setting up the story that's behind the song, and I find that the feedback is that people like it more. They can follow the song better, and they come up after and said, you know, I really was able to follow all the parts of your song, and that's a good feeling. Yeah, you know, feedback is good, and when people are more involved with your music or art, however it comes about, it's a good thing.
You
So
know, it's
storytelling.
interesting you say it's interesting you say that because I saw a Canadian musician named Sarah Harmer in
Mm-hmm.
concert here, and Sarah does the same thing. She introduces the song by telling the bigger picture behind it, and then when she does the song, it's a bigger experience. I think Bruce Cockburn is kind of that way too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And then I think, you know, there are a lot of artists that do that, some more than others. Sometimes it's a quip or a quick one liner, or some have a lot of sense of humor. You know, and people are, another side to the artist comes out when you see them live because you had no idea that they're, you know, comedians as well. So it depends on the artist, and it's a talent. It's something that I think you develop, that a lot of songwriting is based on real life. In fact,
Hmm.
it may be all of it, or at least some of it. And so when you share, you know, how this song came about, and what inspired it, and you start to dig a little deeper, if you understand storytelling, and then you can sort of, you know, see little things as part of bigger trends and universal themes, and that those universal themes are what everybody connects to, and those universal themes are not only what everybody knows and connects to in our country or in our Western Hemisphere, but across the world in different cultures, as well as throughout time. So some of the themes being, you know, going back to, you know, thousands of years ago. It's very Joseph Campbell and hero's journey, you know, and Jungian archetypes. That's the kind of connection I'm looking for now in my songs, to see if I've got my songs, or pick the songs that have these kinds of universal themes that I believe people want to hear and they want to enjoy, and because it helps them, and it helps me communicate.
Yeah, Chantal Kraviazik is another one that does that as
Hmm.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Now I've listened through your music, but I didn't get the film connection. What films have you composed for?
I started in film in around 2000. I was actually in India studying around that time, 98, 99, 2000. And I was on a train track up in Leeds in the UK, coming back from a concert that I did at the college up in Leeds. And what turned out to be a great connection, a producer saw my case, my Shrod case, and had the, you know, the whereabouts to ask me about, you know, the instrument inside. So of course I told him the story, the Shrod, and everything else. He goes, you know, I produce film music. I'd like to work possibly on a project with you, and we kept in touch. And the next thing I knew, I was in London, and he said, "Oh, I'm in London now. I've set up a meeting with you with Boozy and Hawks." And he said it really fast. You know, I could hardly understand. Boozy and Hawks, and I thought it was Vivian Hawes. He said, "Well, it's a big company, and this is a really big deal, and this is your big break." And I was really excited. I was ready for the meeting, but I couldn't find anybody who knew where Vivian Hawes was. I couldn't look it up. I couldn't find it, and I was lost. And the meeting time was approaching, and I was thinking I was going to miss my big break because I couldn't. So anyway, I was able to reach him again. He said, and I said, "Can you please repeat the name of the company I'm going to see?" Boozy and Hawks was the name, and I did make the meeting, and I was able to sign a deal for two albums that of music that I recorded both in India and then worked on in the UK. And that music has been in many films. In fact, I love this little connection. If we stop right now, this moment right now, there'll be music somewhere in the world that I composed, probably in that project, but maybe in some of my others that's playing right now. And you know, that was just a lucky break and a tremendous opportunity that I took advantage of. And some of the music that's been on film has been, there was a movie called Formula 51 or 51st State by Samuel L. Jackson. There was, you know, Mad Men, an NBC production, uh, pretty big episodic TV show that came out a few years ago that some people followed. And, America's Top Model, everything from National Geographic to America's Top Model to, all kinds of things in between, with little independent films that have done really well in different parts of the world. So, like I said, I don't really find out about them until, 6 months after. I look at the royalty sheet and I, try to sometimes pick out some of the things that were more prominently played. There's been some stuff that was used at the BBC proms. A composer or somebody wanted to use a piece for the show, so there's been used in theatrical pieces as well. So it just was a good combination of a lot of things that happened at that time.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that instrument beside you because that's caught
Mm-hmm.
my curiosity. Tell
Mm-hmm.
us what it is and what got you affiliated with that. Look at that.
Isn't that beautiful? It's a
Yeah.
Shrod,
Okay.
Sarod. And quick tour. These pegs here. We actually tune them, but we don't play them. Believe it or not. In fact, there are more pegs that we tune than we play. Um,
Okay.
Tremendously important in Indian music. This is Indian classical music.
Uh-huh.
Although the instrument first came from the Middle East, it was a rabab, and rabab
Okay.
was a gut string and it had frets. This now, when it was adapted into Indian music, they dropped the frets so that the fingernails could slide along.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the fingernails can slide along and create a deeper, a more evocative, kind of deeper sound, and it allows for the emotion of Indian music, which has that capacity to really take us to that. Some people call it a mystical state, a deeper state of being, a meditative state. And so these instruments and this music is specifically created to facilitate that. Uh, and the Shrod in particular is one of the most beautiful instruments
Oh yeah. Like I
to
just see the
grace us.
gleam coming off of that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one, and it's solid wood. This is very heavy. I can't get anybody to actually lift it over there through the screen. I'll lift it. There you go. But try it out. It's now. Hold on. There you go, Greg. Okay, there you go. 13
Look
pounds.
at
That's
that.
solid wood and carved out of teak. Beautiful instrument. I got it in Calcutta. Silver strings, piano strings, actually made in Germany, and then the silver neck is stainless steel that you slide along. So I play, and then this you kind
Look at
of so you
that.
play these kind of instruments. These are rhythm strings up here, and there's only actually 4 melody strings. It's hard to see them, but these 4 big pegs down here, there's actually more
Hmm.
than 4. Those 4 pegs. So it's like a violin in that sense, that you're only really playing the melodies on 4 strings, believe it or not. 3 octaves, and actually 4 octaves if you get way up there in the the nosebleed section. But yeah, it's a beautiful instrument. It's a pleasure to play. I started as a guitar player, and I just evolved into a Shrod player. And going from 6 or 12 strings to 18 or 19 is certainly a different ball game. Like I said, these little strings here are the ones that we tune to get us into the mood of the piece, and then once we're in the mood of the piece, then we go ahead and play that mood. And the moods themselves are connected to music of the ages, but also time. So if if you happen to be out at midnight and you want to hear a song that reflects the mood of midnight, which is very distinct, then there is a raga called Malkans, and that'd be the one you'd play. Or morning ragas that are very slow and they evolve a certain way. There's morning ragas that we learn and we play. And so, I mean, I always encourage the listeners to, when listening to Indian classical music, go ahead and pick out the pieces of music that are connected to the time of day you're listening. And the pieces of music are called ragas, and ragas, ragas, and you pick a morning raga or an evening raga or afternoon raga or whatever the time case may be. And that's a short tour of Indian music and this road.
So what connected you with the Shrod? Like what made that your instrument of choice?
Yeah, that's the million, or perhaps now $1 billion question. Uh, that I was what is called a seeker, if you want to label it, a
Mm-hmm.
person who wasn't really satisfied with the with what I think the that was being laid out for me, the accepted or normal path that was being put before me. Um, just didn't really didn't I didn't feel that that was going to give me what my soul and my heart was desiring. I was a McGill University student. If we got Canadians on online here, you'll know McGill's in Montreal. I had a scholarship, so everything was really well laid out in terms of future finance and success. From a material point of view, I really had everything I think that I could ask for, plenty of opportunities, and I was a good student, and I was going to a great, one of the best universities in the country. And so, what would make a person leave something like that behind? That's a good question. For me, it was the fact that it just knew that path wasn't going to get me what I really wanted in life. And I had an experience when I was 18, another one when I was 15, but the one when I was 18, I had been hitchhiking across Europe. It was the first time think I was really independent and completely free. Um, you know, and I at one point after a great trip through Italy and France, on my own, getting rides, I got it to what was then Yugoslavia, and it was getting dark, and I was on a scraggy hill, um, and I could see the sun setting, and I could see the beach, and I was dying to get a ride down to the beach because there's just nothing like being down there, and when you're on your own, and I could feel the whole town and the smell of the ocean, but yet I just wasn't there, and I couldn't reach it by any other means other than to get a ride. But at night, you're not going to get a ride in the middle of nowhere in Yugoslavia. So just as the sun was setting, a farmer came up on a little motorcycle, uh, and I kind of at first I stuck out my thumb, and he kind of said no. It looks like my backpack was too heavy, and then I basically kind of prayed to him. I said please, and I think I might have done something like got on my knees, but whatever it was I did, he let me on the motorcycle. And it was a combination, and many people out there may have had this in their lives at some point. There was a combination of the wind in my hair, the age and the trip that I had been on that summer. Everything had been working out so beautifully. The warm wind, where I was going down to the beach, and that sense of freedom, and it really brought tears of joy to my eyes, and it literally did. And that moment, I can taste and smell the wind and the sea breeze, and the sun setting over the Adriatic Sea, which is a tremendous sort of feeling anyway. And it just, that experience right there, which was like a culminating moment of that summer of freedom, uh, was something that changed me so deeply inside. And I vowed at that point to myself that I would live a life that would honor that experience. In other words, you know, that would allow me to experience that on a regular basis. So that really became what propelled me and made me make decisions in terms of like, why did I leave McGill after a couple of years? I wanted to go live in Portugal because I felt like I wanted to live in a warm climate where I could repeat that kind of experience. And I actually thought that gypsy culture would be better off. I'd be more suited to gypsy culture than Canadian or North American business culture. And I felt like um, I'd go and join a band of gypsies. So I did.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah, I mean that's what propelled me to learn this instrument, because that search for ultimate freedom and joy was just the thing that motivated me. And um, I tried many things. The band of gypsies, well, long story short, it didn't work out. The gypsies love to travel and they love music, and that suited me. But they weren't too interested in doing much more with me they weren't ready to adopt me. They were ready to take my nice guitar and sell me a motorcycle that didn't run very well. So I didn't really. I kind of recognized that I was never really going to be able to be a gypsy in the true sense of the word. Even after losing my nice guitar, pearl inlay, guitar, and buying a beat up gypsy guitar and playing on the streets, and I had a little dog, and I created my own little caravan. I just could see that lifestyle wasn't all it was cracked up to be. So I went back to Vancouver. I saw a advertisement for meditation on a poster. It was called Sahaja Yoga, and long story short, I ultimately went to that, tried it out. It was free, which was also attractive for a student at the time. I was a student at Simon Fraser University, some of you may know. And so, the meditation worked, and it was free. I could feel something different, and it put my attention on the inside. And then I had a series of experiences that brought me closer to Indian music. I saw a concert by Ravi Shankar, and I met the founder of this meditation, Sahaj Yoga, whose name is Sri Mataji. And these experiences I started to have, rekindled all of that joy that I had felt when I was 18 on that motorcycle. It was as if I was reliving those moments, and that vow I had taken. I could feel now that I was on the right path. I was in a place where I could experience and access that kind of joy on a more regular basis. And so, I ended up going to India, and then now fast forward 10 years, and then I ended up being introduced. I got invited to play the Shrod, or study in a school, after getting invited based on some of my songwriting that I was just starting to play around with, adding world music instruments in it. And someone just heard it. Srimataji actually heard it and said, why don't you go to school here in India and learn Indian music and really focus on pulling that fusion together, Western music and Indian music. So I did that, and I learned the Shrod, and that is, it all started, I guess you could say, on the back of a motorcycle over the Adriatic Sea.
I wanted to get a little bit of your background. What got you started on the path of music, and what was the first instrument you were introduced to?
The first instrument, I think, would have been, well, recorder, maybe in like elementary school.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yeah,
I remember those days. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Three Blind Mice, was it? Three Blind Mice. I don't know. It probably was guitar. And
Okay.
those are the 70s. I grew up in the 70s, and guitar, of course, was just a huge part of popular music culture.
I was born in
And
the early
yeah,
70s, so
you know what I mean. Yeah,
yeah.
so I took guitar lessons. I learned "Let It Be." It was one of the first songs I learned
Hmm.
from a long-haired guy down at the guitar shop. And I pursued. I continued to play guitar, and I still play guitar. I'm a guitarist, and even, I mean, obviously, when I was in India with a master, Amjad Ali Khan of the Shrod, I wasn't really playing guitar then because I was so focused on learning this instrument. But other than that, I've always, played guitar as my focus, as well as Sirode, in terms of instruments.
Lisa got me traveling for the first time to Toronto, because I just turned 50 this year, and I've lived here my entire life here in New Brunswick, Canada, and she was the one that invited me to Toronto to assist her at an event, and that opened my eyes to a few things that I'd never experienced before. So when I hear about travel, and I don't know how much I'll do, I just started going to Toronto, so it's baby steps, but
Mhm.
when I hear about India, I think about a lot of the wildlife there. Did you see anything interesting in terms of animals?
Oh man, I did. It wasn't. my focus because I was in India learning music,
Yeah.
and of course I also went on to India on kind of like meditation retreat kind of journeys uh, before going to study music.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I did go on a safari, and that safari was it is quite amazing. We were riding an elephant. That was what we did. You know, I think in groups of four we rode elephants, and we did see a tiger. During that time. So I think I even wrote a song. I inserted that in one of my songs. Riding an elephant to see a tiger or something like that. But yeah, and it's funny that I'm actually completely fascinated now by um, TikTok or Instagram videos, little short ones
Mm-hmm.
that show zebras running across the plain and then cheetahs chasing them down and grabbing them, and then sometimes the zebras get away and other times they don't. But it's fascinating, and wildlife in general is fascinating. But certainly the wildlife of India or Africa, is it's exotic. It's not something we see here, right?
Yeah. It must have been nice riding an elephant. Did what kind of behavior did the elephant show?
Fine. I think they were, they obviously chose elephants that were used to it, and it was just smooth sailing with the elephant. It was just our transport, but that was another thing to see an elephant up close, and
Yeah.
um, all those kinds of experience were part of my India experiences. The trains, Indian trains, are continue to be. I think they were I think the West kind of got a sense of what that might be like watching the movie Gandhi,
Mm-hmm.
where in the film they're riding along in the train and watching the endless kind of landscapes, and hearing that music was it's very meditative because the train kind of ka-chuck, ka-chuck, ka-chucks along, and then that kind of incredible landscape and the land itself, which actually makes you feel your inner being. There's something about the land, maybe because it's been there for so long, and because so many spiritual people, saints and sages, have walked the land. It has an energy itself that manifests and connects, that we can connect to in our bodies, and actually allows us to meditate more easily. And to be specific for those out there taking notes, it actually opens up the chakras. And I keep doing this because this is what is called the Kundalini energy. It comes up through the center channel and then through the seventh chakra, which is the Sahasrara chakra. And in India, I experienced that in a tremendously powerful way, even from the moment I landed at the airport for the first time. In fact, even 2 hours before we arrived, I could feel it in the plane going towards India, because I had been meditating, and I think I was already kind of sensitive to it, so I could feel this tremendous joy. Now, going back to that motorcycle ride, I don't know if that's connected, but those tears of joy I felt on that motorcycle ride, what I felt when I went to India was, that, but times like in another dimension. And I felt a kind of a joy throughout my whole entire being, like a recognition or something that relates to something that was reflected upon myself in another time, and that you can't put your finger on, but that you could feel. And so uh, that was why I continued to go to India again and again. And now we got a
Yeah.
cat,
Yeah,
not
we
not the
get
big
kitty.
cats. There you go. Not the big cats we were talking about, but nevertheless, not to be underestimated,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. Skittles came over for a moment. He heard tiger and he was like, "I got to investigate this conversation."
Yeah,
Yes. Do you
my
have any pets?
I don't. My daughter loves cats, and like little girls do. She's 7 now, and so I mean, without necessarily having a cat, I feel like there's that connection. Or dogs, she loves dogs, and so I think children bring you a little closer to pets and animals. Because of all my travel, it's been hard to have
Oh
pets
yeah.
because we'd be away even in the summertime. I was in Australia, I was in New York, we were in Vancouver for 3 weeks. So, what are you going to do? That was a good
Yeah.
chunk of time, right?
Oh yeah. So what do you have coming up?
Well, I just got back from Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll probably head down there a little later, coming up. I've got some recordings that I'm working on a project in Chicago with a really good artist. It's a singer-songwriter, and we're inserting the Shrod in some of her songs, which is really cool because there's the Shrod has a kind of a slide guitar feeling or sound, and
Mm-hmm.
so these songs. Evoke a little bit of that southern steel guitar sound, but then take you to another dimension with the Indianness of them. But there's a connection to the two. So I think for listeners, I think when I initially record my parts, they hear or feel something they're familiar with. But then we develop that a little more as we get into the solo or the outros and develop that more and bring out some of the deeper feelings and emotions that I went through on my journeys from, Canada to Yugoslavia on a motorcycle to Portugal in a gypsy caravan to India. But all of that goes into the way my songs and some of the songs of the artists I work with are developed. And I think they appeal to people who have a sense of longing for that connection with themselves.
Absolutely. Do you have any charities that you're involved with that you'd like to plug on here?
Well, I have a nonprofit called Ombience that I ran for many years. It's very dormant now, but I mean, of course, the meditation I mentioned is called
Mm-hmm.
Sahaja Yoga. It's a nonprofit. It's free meditation, and I think that much of I owe a great debt of gratitude to the founder who personally, gave me advice and connected me to India and to this music. So her name is Sri Mataji, Mataji, and the name of the yoga is Sahaja Yoga. So I think that if people are interested in meditation, I definitely would recommend that. I think you'd find it on sahajayoga.org, and I think
Mm-hmm.
from there you can find centers across the world. I think that the music of, if you're interested in Indian music, uh, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan is the person who I have studied with and just met. He was in Chicago at a University of Chicago residency. Um, he's a master of the Shrod, and that's Shrod.com, Sarod.com. Uh, those are two of the things that I would definitely. Those are things that have shaped my world and my life. So I would recommend those. Um, and I've worked with other organizations, nonprofits, the United Nations, for instance, and chapters of the United Nations out here in Southern California that we that put on events, and so they need people to play or talk about these kinds of experiences. But those are a couple of them, sahajyoga.org and suro.com, that I would recommend in addition to my own stephendaymusic.com. And
You know,
I
I was
don't
just
say
gonna
that it's a
ask.
charity, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
well, and talk about charity. I mean, musicians these days, right? Everybody's downloading our music for free. So,
yeah.
um, I think when it comes to artists, I have an artist friend that just released an album, and she was saying, I was saying, well, don't you want to, get people's emails or create a bit of a fan club for yourself so you have a connection with your fans and not just ask people to share it. And I think that artists just really kind of are buying a little bit into this marketing strategy, which I believe it is with YouTube and Facebook and Spotify. They gain every time someone likes or shares your music, and then your music is on these sites. The people that are gaining from all of that are these companies, and I'm not saying that companies shouldn't have a way to prosper. I'm not an anti-capitalist. I'm not saying that, but I think for artists it's important to own your own music, um, you know to maybe license it out, but have your own fan clubs, have your own websites, places where people can come back to and develop a relationship with you. So I would ask that from people too. It's stephendaymusic.com, STEPHEN music, stephendaymusic.com. And I'm on all the social networks, and of course I love it if you like it and you share it and everything else. That helps a lot. But ultimately, I'd love to hear from you and connect with you, because that's actually what artists really need, is they
Mm-hmm.
need to connect with people, and then at some point during that process, people may or may not want to come see a show, or you know buy a mug or something, because they understand where the person's coming from, and it touches them in their music, um, and that's how a relationship develops that actually nurtures the artist, and helps them, you know, survive and thrive, and helps their art and their music survive. Because the truth is, for most artists, Spotify and YouTube, there's never a return on those networks. There's never, other than just it's kind of nice for the ego to get likes, and it's nice to hear from people. There's never any kind of support that actually comes back, except for maybe Justin Bieber, who of course gets an income stream, or John Mayer. They have so many streams that, of course, they're getting significant income from those kinds of plays. But other than that, most 99% of musicians, I would say, probably aren't making much from any of that kind of activity. So, you know, uh, not to get off too much on that topic, but
Mm-hmm.
just it would be nice to hear from people. And you can reach me from my website, stephendaymusic.com. I imagine you'll post it. And my email is Stephen at stephendaymusic.com. So it's easy.
Absolutely. Well, Stephen, it was wonderful having you come on here today and introduce me to this instrument that I've definitely heard before, but wasn't able to put a name to it. So,
Sure.
and I want a special acknowledgement to Lisa to connecting us, and she's always been supportive of me, and she suggested you, and she told me about you, and I said absolutely, why not? And so I got on your website, and that you of course sent me the link to, and I found your YouTube. So
Great.
absolutely,
Thank you.
yeah. So great having you on here today. I wish you the very
Thanks,
best
Greg.
of luck, and keep doing what you're doing. You're fantastic at it. So
Thanks so
keep
much,
keep
Greg. Nice
keep
to be here, and hello to everyone. Thank you.
absolutely. Before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Sure, absolutely. Greg Gilbert, you got to listen to it, guys. I'm Stephen Day. I'm a Shrod player, and I love Greg and his show. You got to listen to it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephen. You keep introducing the Shrod to new listeners.
Will do. Thanks, Greg. Thanks
Absolutely.
again for having me on.
Absolutely. God bless you, man. Thank you.
Take care.
Yep.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.